Good Erev Shabbos. This week we read about the ancient city of Hebron in the Torah. Hebron is the place where Abraham desired to purchase a place that he can bury his beloved wife Sarah. And it wasn't easy for him to acquire this piece of property. The locals gave him much difficulty in acquiring it, and the Torah goes into great length in an unusual manner in describing the negotiations that took place in order that Abram was able to secure this territory to bury his wife Sarah. The truth of the matter is that Hebron really represents the story of the Jewish people. In the book History of the Jews by Paul Johnson, in his first chapter, he's called The Israelites. Paul Johnson begins his book as follows. The Jews are the most tenacious people in history. Hebron is there to prove it. It lies 20 miles south of Jerusalem, 3,000 feet up the Judean hills. There in the cave of Machpelah are the tombs of the patriarchs. Hebron has great and venerable beauty. It provides the peace and stillness often to be found in ancient sanctuaries. But its stones are mute witness to constant strife and 4 millennia of religious and political disputes. It has been in turn a Hebrew shrine, a synagogue, a Byzantine basilica, a mosque, a Crusader church, and then a mosque again. Herod the Great enclosed it with a majestic wall, which still stands nearly 40 feet high, composed of massive stones, some of them 23 feet long. Saladin adorned the shrine with a pulpit. Hebron reflects the long, tragic history of the Jews and their unrivaled capacity to survive their misfortune. David was anointed king there, the first of the Judean kings, and then all of Israel. When Jerusalem fell, the Jews were expelled and it was settled by Edom. It was conquered by Greece and then by Rome, converted, plundered by the Zealots, burned by the Romans, occupied in turn by the Arabs, Franks, and Mamelukes. From 1266, the Jews were forbidden to enter the cave to pray. They were permitted only to ascend 7 steps by the side of the eastern wall of the cave of Machpelah. On the 4th step, they inserted their petitions to God in a hole bored 6 feet 6 inches through the stone. Sticks were used to push the bits of paper there. They fell into the cave. Even so, petitioners were in danger. In 1518, there was a fearful Ottoman massacre of Hebron Jews, but a community of pious scholars were reestablished. In the 1660s, the first modern pilgrims made their way there, secular Jewish settlers, 100 years later, and then the British conquerors in 1918. The Jewish community, never very numerous, was ferociously attacked by the Arabs in 1929. They attacked it again in 1936 and virtually wiped it out. When Israeli soldiers entered Hebron during the Six-Day War in 1967, for a generation, not one Jew had lived there. But a model settlement was reestablished in 1970. Despite much fear and uncertainty, it has flourished until today. So when the historian visits Hebron today, Johnson asks, the historian will ask himself, where are all those people which once held the place? Where are the Canaanites? Where are the Edomites? Where are the ancient Hellenes and the Romans and the Byzantines and the Franks and the Mamelukes and the Ottomans? They have vanished at the time irrevocably. But the Jews are still in Hebron. Hebron is thus an example of Jewish obstinacy of over 4,000 years. It also illustrates the curious ambivalence of the Jews towards the possession and occupation of the land. No race has maintained over so long a period so emotional an attachment to a particular corner of the earth's surface. I found those words very powerful and moving. I was blessed to be in Hebron personally, but Hebron is a symbol of Jewish endurance and Jewish survival. And the reason why Hebron is a symbol of Jewish endurance and Jewish survival is because what we learn about in this week's Parsha. Because God told Abraham, "L'zaracha etenas haaretz hazos," to your descendants I will give this land. And it was very tough for Abraham in his lifetime. He even had to haggle with the locals to bury his beloved wife on the land that he was promised by God. What we see from over here is sometimes we can't look at a situation in a vacuum. We have to look at the big picture, and the big picture was that God was planting the seeds for all of time for Abraham's descendants, not only to take possession of this holy parcel of land in Hebron, in the land of Israel, but also to be the people that live God's values in his land, the holy land of Israel. So it's a great responsibility that we have, and it's a great calling that we have. And it's our challenge to make sure that that challenge is met. We have to remember the amazing responsibility that we have. It's not just the fact that we were given a land, we were given a mission. And the mission is, as it says in the Shema, V'hayam Shemoah Tishmo Mitzvosai, if you will listen to my mitzvot, you will listen to the observances of the Torah, Asher Anochi Mitzvah Eschem Hayom, which I command you today, Lihavas Hashem Elokeichem, to love Hashem your God, L'avdo b'chol havavochem u'b'chol nafshechem, to serve him with all of your hearts and all of your souls. And then God promises us a connection to the land, because God's presence manifests itself in that parcel of land in a more significant, more compelling, and more intense way than any other place on the face of the earth. And within the Holy Land itself, there are different places where the manifestation of his presence and his holiness has more intensity than others. And with the exception of the holy city of Jerusalem, it can be said that Hebron is the seat of this Kedusha. Hebron is this seat of this holiness. This is the place where King David was anointed. This is the place where our forefathers and our patriarchs and our matriarchs are buried, because this is the place where God's presence manifests itself. We're able to have that connection with God's presence today. So we have to remember that, as we say in the liturgy of the Shemona Esrei, V'zocher chazdei avos u'mevi goel uvnei v'nehem l'man shmo be'hava, that we are on the shoulders of giants. God remembers the kindness of our patriarchs and our matriarchs, and because of that, we are getting the dividends of that relationship. And the bond is so deep, the bond is so strong that it can never be severed. As it says in the end of the book of Vayikra, despite all the difficulties that the Jewish people have faced, despite all the great odds that threaten our survival over the years, we will never be a nation that is completely vanquished. We'll never be a nation that's completely annihilated, and we will never be a nation that is completely defeated. As the Torah tells us in the end of the Tochacha, in the difficult section of the Torah, in Sefer Vayikra, when it talks about all the punishment that will fall upon our people if we abandon God and His Torah, it says at the end, "V'zacharti es brisi Yaakov, I will remember my covenant with Jacob. V'afas brisi Yitzchak, I will remember my covenant with Isaac. V'afas brisi Abraham, I will remember my covenant with Abraham, V'ha'aretz es kar, I will remember the land." It is through the covenant with Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov that God ensures the survival of our people. But not only that, He also ensures our continued connection to the land. So it's our responsibility, especially at these times of the year, when we review these Torah portions, not just to remember that they are stories, but rather they lay the blueprints for and chart the course of our history, and remind us how we have to stay true to our beliefs and our values. We are, after all, the children of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And as Johnson, who I started off with, talks about, Hebron represents the undefeated and unrelenting spirit of the Jewish people. So let us, once again, in a sea of difficult times, in a sea of difficult news, let us get that chizuk, let us get that strength, that God's promise to the Jewish people is enduring and permanent, just as His promise to Abraham was enduring and permanent, and just like His promise to the city of Hebron was enduring and permanent, so too His promise to our people will be enduring and permanent. I wish you all a good Erev Shabbos.